Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 189 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we're coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We have another great organization to discuss this week as we highlight the Gaston County Jaycees. That is the actual name, right?
Yes.
I didn't screw that up?
Yes,
okay.
Yep.
That's something I normally ask. We have Nate Bragg and Dominick Abraham with us today. Dominick is the current president of the organization, and Nate is the community relations vice president.
There you go.
Get that right? All right.
Yep.
Dominick and Nate, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Excited to be here in the intergalactic headquarters.
Yeah, sometimes it is intergalactic.
International.
It's worldwide. It's intergalactic. It's international. You know, it's just here every week we change it up, right?
Yep.
All right. So, first question is, and I'll start with you, Dominick. We'll just kind of go back and forth. Is just for our listeners, tell us a little bit about yourself, and anything you'd like to share, and then we'll get into the Jaycees.
Absolutely. All right. Well, for the sake of today's episode, I'm the president of the Gaston County's Junior Chamber of Commerce, also known as the Jaycees, more commonly known.
Right.
And alongside that, I'm also employed with Gaston County Schools. I'm
cool.
the Aspire Site Coordinator at Lingerfelt Elementary School. It's an after-school program that we run over there. And then outside of that, I just recent Gaston County native. I moved here about 4 years ago in 2021. So new to the area.
So you couldn't get here fast enough.
Could
right?
not get, trust me, could not get here fast enough now that I've been down here the past couple of years. Yeah. So again, that's just a little bit about myself.
All right.
And then
Nate?
I'm Nate Bragg. I'm also not a Gaston County native, originally from St. Louis, Missouri. Big Cardinals fan, big St. Louis Cardinals fan, big baseball guy. My employment is with Bluestone Financial, kind of over there by the Harris Teeter here in Gaston County. I work there with Chris Pridnia, and I've been doing that for the past 2 years, where I actually got connected through his son, Connor, as you know, Connor pretty well, Connor Pridnia.
Yes.
Him and I went to Clemson together. That's where I studied.
We won't hold that
finance.
against you.
No. I know you're an NC State guy, and, last year you guys got us in football. I think this year's going to be our year. I think
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, Clemson, met Connor. Been working at Bluestone for the past 2 years as a financial advisor. And yeah, really excited. I'm in Rotary with you as well, Stephen, and the Rotary Club of Gastonia.
That's correct.
Yep.
That's right. And Nate, unfortunately, has the misfortune occasionally sitting at our table. So sorry about that. About that, Nate.
Not misfortune. I chose it. I chose my fate there. I love that table with you and Greg and Vinny and Catherine and all of them. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about me there.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate you sharing that. It's nice to hear a little bit of background on our guests. So let's get into the Gaston County Jaycees. So I will just throw this question out to both of you, and y'all can talk over each other. Like we have. We have no rules here at Gaston's Great, but we may have some listeners. I mean, being a Gaston County native, being involved in the community, I am very familiar with the Jaycees. I know about it. I was actually briefly involved, not as much as my brother and his wife were many years ago. But yeah, just first, maybe just share with our listeners what is the Jaycees, and then we'll get into mission, initiatives, things you've got going on right now. So.
Good deal.
So just kind of just let our listeners know, what is the Jaycees?
100%. So we are a civic service group. So locally, we serve Gaston County, but we have chapters at the state level in other cities and towns within North Carolina, all across the country in the United States. And we're also an international organization as well. Our core component is we're all 21 to 40 years old. So all of us who serve are within that age span. And again, the big component is really giving back to our communities, focusing on service, but also really trying to develop ourselves in our professional networks and through our own self-development. That's really the core component. A lot of it will look different from chapter to chapter. Historically, here in Gaston County, we've really been focused on, community service and how we can give back to our local cities and townships. And so, again, we'll get into some of our projects a little bit down the line. But, again, do some really cool things within the community. And, again, at its core, it's all young people, between the ages of 21 to 40. So that's kind of the core group.
Yeah, I do remember when I was like, I'm going to be aged out.
Yep, we do.
I can't do that anymore.
Yep, and
But
so that's it. And again, once you're 40, when you turn 41, that is the end of your membership in the junior chamber. There are some other organizations,
I
like we
know.
have the Senators and some chapters that still provide some support, to the core group of JCs. But again, ultimately, it creates kind of that, just that turnover. There is always passing it down to the next generation. And locally, we've been here for 86 years, so there's been a lot of generations of young people who've committed to this organization, but ultimately the county and the communities.
Yeah, in general, my experience with the community the last 25 or 30 years, actually, I would consider that probably a positive. Or maybe there might be some other organizations that should probably do something like that to make sure there is some turnover. And when you know that, then there should be some mentoring and exchange of leadership and how that should happen. I know sometimes organizations, they can get a little stale. It's one thing I like about Rotary Club. It's been around a long time, Nate, but we've got a good mix of, older, longer standing members. I don't like to use the word older. I mean,
I've used it by mistake one or two times.
Yeah.
I've been known to.
Older is not above 30 only.
No,
we won't go. We won't go there. But
it's a throwback. That's a throwback there. Yeah.
but so a lot of organizations though can get stale if you don't do that. So I like that. Anything you would like to add to that, or did Dominic cover it pretty well?
Dom covered most of it. The biggest thing for me that I think is special about our JCs, though, what I'll say about it is our ability to build relationships and network. I think is the biggest thing that we also do is, of course, getting involved in the community, but the best way to get involved in the community is by having a good group of people that are close and have a good relationship with each other and enjoy doing it together. That's the one special thing about our club that I would like to have.
How did y'all get involved?
I got involved through Steve DeAvria at the GBA.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere, man. He is awesome. We love Steve. And I was just, first working at Bluestone and like trying to get involved in what different organizations, and Rotary was one of them. And he was like, the JCs are for people your age. This is your demographic. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So immediately met Kendrick, the current president at the time, and just got involved. This would have been about 2 years ago.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
And I have a very similar story. So I was actually connected by Sharon Paget, who reached out to Andrea Grenier, who'd been very involved in our chapter, was the chapter president, was the state president for North Carolina. So Sharon, I was working for the YMCA at the time, and she connected with Andrea, said, hey, I've got somebody who could be a great JC. At the time, I had no idea what that meant, what that was. I had never heard of the organization. And I actually, before I had met with Andrea, I went to our first meeting, which was our nominations and election for the 2024 Board of Directors when Kendrick was nominated as president. And so that was interesting. I had never met any of these people. I was pretty new to Gaston County. And the first meeting, it was, I nominate him to be president and I nominate her for vice president. And I was like, what is going on?
Right.
But again, over time, I got the chance to really sit down and meet with people and learn more about what the organization was about, and really seeing that community service element is what ended up kind of pulling me into the chapter. That was the end of 2023, so about 3.5 years now.
All right, well, very good.
4.
That's good to hear. So let's get into the meat of the organization. What are some of the initiatives, projects, just, maybe even what is the day in the life of the JCs? I mean, just talk about some of the things you guys are doing. I know listeners like to hear about specific things as possible that you guys are involved with and doing.
So I'll start with the next thing that we're doing. The next upcoming thing we're doing is July 21st. We host a Distinguished Service Awards community event that is, we've been doing it for over 75 years now?
It'll be year 76.
76 years we've been doing this. And what it is, it's basically an awards show where we have, community members like police officers, firefighters, civic service leaders in healthcare, teachers, and a student in Gaston County that we honor with an award. And we also have 5 leaders under 40 that we'll honor with an award. And it's really just a good community event that we get to honor mainly people that just don't get to be honored enough.
Okay,
you know what I mean? That's kind of the biggest shtick with that. And That's coming up here on July 21st. That's a really good event that we've been doing for 76 years.
That's a perfect date for it.
Perfect date.
July 21st.
Is that your birthday?
Yes.
Oh,
That's your birthday,
okay.
Steve?
It is,
Happy
yes,
early birthday.
yes.
See, that's why we actually changed the date from the 23rd to the 21st because we knew that.
Yeah,
We'll give you an extra raffle ticket
yeah,
too.
Steven's actually pretty good with the raffles. Steven, remember that back at the Heart Ball?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I did take home some quality
Yeah.
raffle.
That's another. I
item.
guess that's a quick little segue to the Heart Ball. We do help out. Jaycees do help out with the Heart Ball and the association there, and
that's the Heart Society, correct?
Heart Society. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I guess you can keep going with the next
Yep.
couple that we've got. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and again, to piggyback off of the DSAs, so we're also very fortunate that we work with the leadership of the Sheriff's Office, County Police, City Police, GEMS, the Fire Department, Gaston County Schools, because the recipients are chosen by the leadership, the superintendents, chiefs, captains. And so, again, that really gives it a very prestigious honor. And alongside that, we also award the Duke Kimbrell Civic Achievement Award. It's our highest honor, again, represents the legacy of Duke Kimbrell, both the professional success and the philanthropy, and giving back to our community. So we'll be posting those award winners next week on our Facebook, so everybody can tune in. I would say also most notably is the Gastonia Christmas Parade. That's another one that I think most of the public would probably immediately connect to, even if they're not very familiar with our chapter and kind of our organization. They're still going to understand that they may have heard that name, thrown out when it comes to the event. We've been hosting that for 70 years. The historical record keeping is not great, so we don't know the exact start date that we start to take that over. But again, we lead these projects, and alongside that, we do a back-to-school shopping event where we partner with Miss Cynthia Stitt and the students from the Irwin Center. She has a youth program that she runs out of there. So we bring them to Target, and we basically just give them a budget to shop with. And if they need some school supplies, they can get those. But they also get clothes and shoes and the things that make them excited for the first day of school. That's really the core component of that event. And this is all voluntary. So, myself as president, Nate as vice president, we have a few other board members who serve with us, and all of our members are just volunteering our time. So again, the day-to-day can be a little difficult because alongside what we do for work, we're also taking on a responsibility to build up an organization, a nonprofit. But again, ultimately, I think the fulfillment and the reward that we get from the success of our events, and again, to Nate's point, connecting with the community, I think that's what, continues to create the sustainability in our engagement. We really get a lot of fulfillment and value from the work that we do, even though there's no other, tangible value outside of that fulfillment. So.
Well, that's a good segue because, this next question I'd like to ask is, this is for both of you in both of your times involved with the Jaycees, whether it was an awards event or anything you've described. Is there something you can look back on and say, wow, that a family you helped, an organization you helped, or something you saw that was like, wow, this is the point of why the Jaycees are here? You don't have to use names, of course, but is there something that specifically you can share that kind of you jumps out and say, wow, this really hit the mission?
Well, I'll jump in briefly because I do have one particular moment. But I'll say one of my best personal accomplishments in the chapter was hosting Healthy Kids Day. It's a YMCA event, so it's the YMCA's branding. It's their IP. But we reached out to them and said, hey, again, we have some connections in the community. We'd like to see if we can kind of help, partner with you to host this event. And so we went to the Irwin Center in 2024. And we did it in back-to-back years, 2024 and 2025. We had a toucher truck with the GEMS ambulance, the SWAT truck, the fire trucks. We had, again, bouncy houses and food truck vendors, snow cones, all that stuff. But there was one organization in particular, Kenneth Falls Ministries, that was doing a clothing giveaway at the event in Irwin Center's gym. And there was one family that came by, and I remember as I was walking out the lobby, one of the daughters of this family was sitting in the lobby putting on her new shoes that she had gotten from the event. And you could just see the happiness and just, again, the impact that we were able to have. And I think, again, there's some things where it's the grand scale, building this organization, organization. And again, being able to really give back in larger ways, like to the city of Gastonia. But I think that small scale moment was what really showed me, again, kind of how deep our impact can be, you know, and how far we can reach out in our community.
Like that's what the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nate, you got one?
Yeah, I would say for me, it's the back to school shopping. I had a kid that I was able to shop around with, and he unfortunately had never had like good shoes to wear to school, and for him, for me to go over there and pick some small little some Reeboks that we got for him. I mean, it was a pretty cool a pretty cool moment to see him and to understand that there is a need out there for that you just don't even think about, I guess, was the kind of perspective that I had going into this, is that I knew I wanted to help. I knew I wanted to get involved, but I just didn't know what the need was really.
Sure.
So it was kind of cool to see that and to help him out. And I love that event so much. That's coming up here in the beginning of about a month from now. So excited about that. But yeah, that was one of my favorites.
That's a good one. All right. So what about, I'm going to jump ahead a couple questions. Looking ahead, I mean, what's the future look like for the Gaston County Jaycees? I mean, that classic question is, what's 3 to 5 years look like? And I know here at our company, we don't even ask that anymore. If things change so fast, we might look ahead 2 or 3 years now. We don't look really further than that. So, 5, 10 years down the road, next year, I mean, what are the plans for Jaycees? Just keep doing what you're doing.
I'll start with this one because it's interesting. Dom's got a really, really cool story with, I know that you should tell about Andrea. And Andrea Grenier she has single-handedly kept this organization alive since probably the 2010s. There was kind of a lull in the Jaycees, just to be fully transparent. When you guys were in it, when like Joel and Renee and Chris Pridnia was in it back in the 90s, that was a pretty thriving organization at that point. And then they're kind of became.
Of course, it was better.
Of course, everything was better back then, right, Steve?
The good old days.
Yeah. But there was kind of a lull, and Andrea.
Listen, lots of organizations go through things like that.
Yeah,
lots.
And COVID was a big one, right? You talk about in Rotary, we've talked about that. The attendance kind of dropped after COVID, and Andrea single-handedly helped us with that. But I would say at this point, going forward, we have a tremendous amount of momentum. We have a tremendous amount of engagement that we've gotten from the Holy Angels has gotten some members that have come over. Just people from all over Belmont and other areas besides Gastonia too that are starting to join, and we think that in the next 5 years, I would say we should be able to double our membership and just hopefully double the impact in the community. So I would say that the momentum of our membership and our, I guess, activity in the community, I think is what I'm most excited about, and I think we should be going forward. Yeah.
And I love that too.
Yep.
And I'll say again, to Nate's point, especially just with the nature of our organization, when COVID happened and a lot of our members who are in their mid to late 30s are not able to engage in our chapter, and the question really becomes, hey, when are we going to be able to do this again, if we're able to do this again, right, by the time that we age out? Yep. Again, it was a big impact to our chapter. And I think, again, with any civic service club, it's not like budgets are, again, bulky and, it's not like we had a lot in reserves. And I think to Nate's point, both the work that Andrea's done, but the presidents who've preceded me, Elizabeth Johnson, Kendrick McDowell, there's just been a chain of leaders who've really focused on pouring the foundation. And that's the conversation that I have with Nate and a lot of our other board members, is again, my primary focus is to grow the organization and give a blueprint and a structure that we can then continue to pass down. Because to the point and the ultimate point of our mission is that's what's required for us to continue to be successful as we move on. And again, to Nate's point, I think this year we have found a lot of success with community partnerships and really being able to market through our community partners. We've had guest speakers like Ivory Craig and Lauren Shoemaker, city councilors with Mount Holly. We went out to Mount Holly, we had a meal over there. We get to hear from them. And I think that's where we've seen a lot of our members start to gravitate. It's learning about the different towns and cities in our county, and things that, again, might be more impactful for them depending on where they live. But again, also getting them to understand what they can do within our organization. Understanding that if you do take a board position, like, you have a chance to influence what our chapter gets involved in, how we spend our money, and understanding that, again, if they're coming from Holy Angels, that's a great way for us to partner with them and figure out how we can benefit one of their fundraisers and give back. And I say that's ultimately what our chapter is best used for, trying to work as a proxy to support other organizations and other nonprofits as well. And so I think ultimately 5 to 10 years down the line, to Nate's point, we've seen a lot of recent engagement. And I think with the growth that our county will see, especially in terms of a lot of the business development, the work that the GBA is doing, to really promote and develop our community, we're going to continue to see a lot of growth as a proxy to that. And so I've been really excited this year, even in the first 6 or 7 months, to see all the new faces who've been coming to our meetings, because all of them have really engaged with our work and our mission. And I think it just gives us a chance to continue to expand the impact, to have that foundation and continue to grow. So, yeah.
All right, that's great. So I'm going to ask that big, broad question, and then we'll kind of move on to some other different type questions. But Nate, start with you. Mm-hmm. Why? And you've already answered this question with some specifics, but kind of in a broader sense. Why is Gaston County better because the Jaycees are here?
It's a great question. I would say just generally it's better because we help out kids in need with, we didn't even mention the etiquette program, the etiquette programs that we do with the Irwin Center. We do a lot with the Irwin Center, as you can tell with Miss Dot over there, but we help out the kids with all different kind of needs there. I would say that's a big way that we help make it better. I would say we help develop leaders too. You talk about, Dom mentioned that as one of our big pillars, but developing leaders, and one of the biggest things we do at the beginning of every meeting is we have everybody stand up, in front of everybody else and talk about, what they do for work, what they're excited about at the meeting, or like how long they've been in the club, and kind of do that public speaking element, which is difficult sometimes for younger people to kind of get accustomed to that with everything. But developing leaders that will hopefully make an impact in the community, I think is the biggest point that I'll make there. Yeah.
Sorry, Dominic, I asked him first. Did he steal your answer, or you got something to add to that?
I will just piggyback off of that because, again, I think developing leaders has been one of the most historically impactful parts of our chapter within our county. Again, especially Nate mentioned, when you look at the 70s, a guy I always love talking to is John Lowry, who was very involved with our chapter, local president, state president, and he talks about having 200 plus young people in a room, and discussing how they can serve and make an impact in our county. And so again, to think about the impact that carries, not just the benefit externally, but how many of those people fell in love with Gaston County and continued to develop their careers, continued to give back. And so again, I think developing leaders and fostering that sense of civic service is probably the most impactful legacy that we've left. And again, I think to the point of where we are in 5 to 10 years, I think that's the big focus, is just keeping it going.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Before we finish, we'll make sure we give you guys a chance to talk about how can listeners find out more information, the website, and all that. But is there anything, before we shift gears a little bit, is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked? Anything you want to make sure that you share specifically before we start moving toward landing this airplane?
I can't think of anything. No,
Okay.
I feel like you've asked. You're
Perfect.
Listen, you're a great host, man.
Oh yeah,
We love being here.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, Joe Rogan better watch out, huh?
Yeah, listen, he's gonna take his job.
All right, we're gonna shift gears with a couple personal kind of related questions, and we'll kind of circle back and make sure we finish off with how others can learn more about the Jaycees that we haven't shared. So, Dominic, I'm gonna start with you on this one. first, since I let Nate answer the other question. What is something very few people know about you?
So I will say I am very publicly facing as a Gaston County Jaycee. That's how I've networked and met a lot of people in the community. And I'll also say a lot of people likely recognize me from my career with the YMCA. I was doing youth programs and sports programs, so also very out and about. But I think one thing that I do not advertise that much is, again, I work for Gaston County Schools. I work for Lingerfeld Elementary School, and we have a federally grant-funded program called Aspire After School. It's a free-of-charge program that we host out of Lingerfeld, H.H. Beam Elementary, Pleasant Ridge Elementary, and Wood Hill Elementary School.
Okay.
In total, we serve about 300 students. Again, free of charge. We give them a meal. We give them academic support with our certified teachers, and also enrichment with teacher assistants like arts and crafts and the fun stuff, really. And we also do a summer camp program. So I think I just always like to highlight that and note that. It's a program that the funding has been in question over the past couple of years when it pertains to federal grant money. But ultimately, we've been very blessed and fortunate to sustain the program and continue serving it. And we're planning to do it this upcoming school year, which is great.
Good. Yeah.
But also the leadership that I have around me in that program has been very impactful for me personally. So I'll give a shout out to Dr. Leanne Conyers, who's my direct supervisor, and is just truly, out of all the names that we've mentioned and all the people, there are incredible mentors, but she is just one of the best leaders, who is soft-spoken, who does not want me to be saying her name on a podcast and probably putting it out there, but she really is one of the best. And so again, I think I just like to highlight that program and the work that we do, because I don't think a lot of people know about it in our community.
Oh, well, I appreciate you sharing that.
We're doing some cool stuff.
That's good. Well, Nate, top that one.
Let's say mine is not as cool or as influential as that, or significant. I was just gonna say, the first thing I thought of, and I'll just no filter here and say it, is when I was in high school, I was in choir, and I'm a singer. So it's funny that you know how we have the Rotary song every week. So in our Rotary Club, we have a traditional song like a row 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 your boat kind of thing that we'll sing, and I wish I knew the words to some of those songs, because I do actually enjoy singing, and I was in church choir and everything.
We used to have Rotary songbooks, but Rotary quit producing them, and we just, over the years we just wore them out.
Yeah.
So, but I've been in the club long enough to remember. Yeah, we had songbooks on all the tables.
We should bring those back, because I don't know half the. I mean, I'm starting to learn, because we're starting to repeat the songs, but I don't know any of the words.
So in other words, what you're saying is you need to be in charge of the music committee, the song committee.
I wouldn't put that out there just Rotary yet, but I will say that I do have a knack for singing. Not a lot of people know that. I don't even think you knew that. Not a lot of people know that, and I guess that's public information now, and I maybe shouldn't have said that, because now I know where this is going.
You can't put that back in the bag now.
Nope.
Now that that's out, so but, interesting.
Yeah. Yep. That's.
Let's see what I can do with that one.
Definitely a curveball there. I didn't expect that one.
No, I didn't. Especially, I'm such a terrific singer myself.
You definitely are. I mean, again, we sit at the same table, and I hear Steven singing behind me. You get excited about it.
Yeah, you can. I tell you what, you can be in charge of the music committee, and we can have some. You can get some songs that are post 1950 for us.
Yeah. We could do that.
Yeah, they're not very modern songs.
No.
I'll just leave it at that.
They're not.
All right, this is probably. I don't think this question was on these ones we sent you, so I'm going to put you on the spot first, Nate. If you could have coffee or dinner with one historical figure, who would it be and why?
You know what? In honor of, and I just watched this documentary too, in honor of the 250th birthday of America, and watching the Thomas Jefferson documentary, I'm going to go with Thomas Jefferson.
He's an interesting character,
and I'll probably have some coffee with him, and talk about his just the philosophy. I mean the unfounded ideas that they all the founding fathers had, but specifically him. I think that'd be cool to dig into. Yeah.
Have you ever been to Monticello?
I have not.
Yeah,
no,
it's worth the stop if you're ever up in that the Charlottesville, Virginia area. We've been, and it's just really interesting. I've read multiple books about Thomas Jefferson too. So that's a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Dominic, how would you answer that
So
one?
I'll say mine is going to be a bit more modern, but it would probably be Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, okay.
I just again, the history behind again, we're talking the wars, and then also being able to become president. I'm fascinated by the square deal. I think we could maybe use a little bit more of that nowadays, with these big corporations and everything. But I think ultimately just getting to hear his stories and again his philosophies. The Man in the Arena, I love that one.
Oh, yeah.
Just again a lot of great speeches. Even just hearing about him getting shot and then giving the speech. Yep. Again, I think that was the start of like the end of that generation a little bit. There's not too many characters and figures who would probably have that mentality and life philosophy.
Yeah,
So,
he's an interesting guy, and he did so many things.
Yep.
I mean, the books he wrote, a naturalist. I mean, he was an interesting character, much more so than just being president, right? And so anyway, those are two really good.
I'm gonna flip the question, Stephen. Who would you choose?
I think you're not the first person to do that. For me, it would probably be Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
And the primary reason was, I mean, obviously he accomplished a lot, but his view was when he created his cabinet, he brought in the opposing side too, right? And I just think that's important, and we could use a little bit more of that, right?
Yep.
Is it's okay to have different opinions, okay to mix his opinion. And my favorite quote of his is, I'm paraphrasing it, but basically he said, I don't like that man very much. I need to get to know him better.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
As opposed to, I don't like him. Heck with him, right? It seems like the modern attitude, right? And his attitude was, I don't like him very much. I need to get to know him better so I can understand why. So, but listen, any founding father, anybody like Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, I'd love to sit down with.
Fascinating.
With just to pick their brain on what in the world were y'all thinking?
Exactly.
Right? Because I can't imagine putting myself in that situation and doing those same things, right?
No.
I think I would just be afraid, whatever,
Yep.
It was such an unusual, and it's easy now to look back and say, good job, right? At the time, they had no idea Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, they didn't know what the results of some of that stuff would be they were doing,
uncharted territories.
That's exactly
they were
right.
sailing. Yep.
How about a book or a blog or a podcast or anything that you might have read, something you've read or seen or listened to lately that might benefit our listeners?
That'll benefit the list. Gosh, this is okay. I'll go with a book that I read recently, and this is more of my financial brain going a little bit, but I think it's beneficial to everyone with just personal finance in general. The Psychology of Money. You may have heard of that book by Morgan Housel.
I've heard him on multiple podcasts.
Yeah,
too.
he's fantastic. And
I agree.
In that book, I guess the gist of that book is that personal finance decisions are more about behavior than just like a science. It's more about the behavioral aspects than just the actual running the numbers and the spreadsheets.
It's not as logical as we'd like it to be.
It's not as logical. It's not.
We make too many not too many, but decisions are emotional.
Exactly. The emotions behind all these financial decisions and how you grew up and were raised and the context behind how you think about money and all that kind of stuff influence your decision making way more than you think. So I would just give that book a read. It really introduces you to personal finance in general, and it kind of opens your eyes to the fact that it's just not an exact science. There's just a lot of gray area.
Yeah, if you've seen these lists like these, the most important 25 to 50 books to read, that's almost always on there now. Yeah, so that's a good one.
Yep.
Dominic, how would you answer that question?
Unfortunately, I do not do enough reading between work, volunteer
That's
work,
all right.
and the personal
When
things.
I was y'all's age, I wasn't doing much reading. I do
Yeah.
a lot of reading now, but when I was y'all's age, I wasn't doing much reading.
But I will say there's one, and I guess you could consider it a blog, a lot of social media like YouTube channels, Facebooks. But I love city planning, and in particular, Strong Cities is a great account. Just again, whether it's the YouTube channel, Facebook, what they really focus on are how can cities who have kind of fell off the cliff, right? They've lost their industry, they've lost their business, their downtowns were abandoned, right? What can those cities do to turn the corner? And I think there's a lot of interesting, areas of the country that you would not think of, like some small cities in Arkansas who've done just very outside of the box things and have seen a lot of success. And so I think that is a great content for anybody within Gaston County who's starting to kind of see this rebirth and this regrowth. And again, how can we influence that as individual citizens? Because that's a big core component as well. But again, also, what are some of these different theories and ideas that we might be able to implement just to kind of get the best out of the future that might be coming our way.
You said that's a blog or what?
It's a Facebook account,
Oh,
YouTube
okay.
account.
Yeah.
So just out there on social media.
So
But I believe
Strong
it's
Cities is the name of it?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
Strong Cities.
So you just search that? Perfect.
Yep. That should
Right.
be it. I might be a little off on the name there. But you'll get something.
AI will,
Yeah.
AI will figure it out, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So listen, I appreciate you indulging us on those kind of off the cuff questions there. So a couple questions and we'll finish this episode up. So I love this question. Two other questions that I love to finish with. And Dominick, I'll start with you. You could both have been here long enough now in Gaston County. So besides the Gaston County Jaycees, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
And I love that question because even when I first moved here, I was met with, I think, the common narrative and perhaps common bias, even from people who were born and raised here, that there are some things that do not make Gaston so great,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And I have always told people, I've born and raised in Massachusetts. I've lived out in Portland, Oregon for a very brief time, so I've seen different parts of the country. And what I tell people, especially here with Gaston County, there are so many individual stakeholders who have really taken responsibility for trying to help benefit everybody in our county. And I think as many organizations and nonprofits that we hear about and that we see in the Gazette or just out in public and in the media, there are so many people, so many volunteers, so many organizations composed of volunteers or, again, paid people, whatever it may be, all of whom move with the same operating agenda of trying to make things better for people. And I think the unique thing here is that there is some diverse thought and perspective on what that is, right? Again, we have a strong business community that wants to see things grow and develop, right? We have a strong community that wants to see more public parks and more public spaces. We've got a community that wants to see more parking downtown, right? So,
Yeah.
again, all of those stakeholders, I feel, have a seat at the table, and I do think that they're pretty well represented. And ultimately, I think that it just comes down to all of us as individuals to continue that progress together. We have to step out in the public forum, put ourselves in the arena, but I think ultimately there's so many people who are doing that and who have done that for so long. And again, it just creates this sense of community service, and I think that's ultimately why not just me, but also my family, my mom who serves in Rotary Sabra.
Yeah.
Again, all of us have really been able to find something. My dad volunteers at food pantries and, different things in the community. And it was Bread, I believe. That's the name of it, Bread, locally here. And again, it's meeting all of these people. Again, some of whom, like when I was over at Bread, there are some people there who, not just Rotary old, some of these folks are old,
Wow, Rotary old.
I'm just
Whoa.
I know we're getting
That's
there.
another
We're
category
there.
there.
I feel like we're there at this point in the show, at this point in the
I love
episode.
it. I love it.
But no, and I don't say that.
That's
I don't
good.
say that to disparage or
I
to
understand.
demean.
Oh,
but
I
ultimately,
know
say
exactly what you mean.
But ultimately I say that, again, I find a lot of inspiration in that, right? Like I
Yeah.
think about, again, how long have these people really cared about this community and the people who are here? And that's what makes Gaston great. It's that cumulative effort from all of these individuals. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, Dom and I go to this GBA hosted event monthly. They do it on the first Thursday of every month. It's called Caffeine and Conversation.
Yeah.
You may have heard of it, yeah. And they do it all over. They do it at they've done it at Dirty Bull. They've done it at the Conference Center. They do it all over Gaston County. And the biggest thing that I've noticed I literally, the first month that I was in Gaston County working, I went to one of those. There was 5 people. Went to one this past month, probably 55 people.
Oh, wow.
So within
good.
the past 2 years. So it shows the momentum, like I was saying, with just the Gaston County Jaycees, but just with Gaston County in general, the business engagement of all these. And every time it's positives, it's constant positivity, and that's what Steve DeAvria, who hosts that, kind of brings. He brings the positivity and trying to highlight the good things that are going on, and I would say that just is a great example of why Gaston is great. It's just because we're trending positively, and even downtown is starting to thrive. We're opening up these charcuterie spots. I'm trying to think of, was it Graze and Peace? That's a shout out there for Graze and Peace there. But there's just all these different places opening up in downtown too.
Yeah, well said. That was two really well thought out and terrific answer to that. So last question for both of you, then we'll finish this one up. So Nate, I'll go with you first on this one because, Dominick is knocking these questions out of the park.
So am I hitting singles or doubles? What am I doing here? My baseball brain go.
You can take that for what it's, whatever you guys like.
Inside the park home
now,
run, maybe.
This question might be hit the two of you a little different because you're so young. But I'm going to ask it anyway. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self or your 15-year-old self maybe? And y'all,
okay. Yeah, because I'm in my 20s right now. So this is it's an interesting question. What advice could I give to my, let's say, I'm going to rephrase it. Yeah, 18-year-old or younger. I would say, an advice that I would say is to not let other people's opinions determine what you're going to do or what you want to do. Like when I was 18 or, a few years back, I cared more about people's opinions than I probably should have.
Sure.
Probably wouldn't have shared that I was in choir on this podcast at that age, and I just wouldn't have been as open to doing other things. So I would say that's the biggest thing was just don't do what you want to do.
No,
do what you want to do. Yeah.
I sure had that issue when I was younger.
Yeah. Yep.
Long time ago.
Yep.
Dominick, how would you answer that?
So I would say, to my 20-year-old self, truthfully, it would probably be hold on for the ride, because I think life for me has taken a lot of twists and turns. Again, my 20-year-old self never would have thought that we'd be down here in North Carolina. My brother was here in Charlotte, so then my parents came down, then I followed suit. But I do think, I guess a little bit to Nate's point, is I try not to internalize my good or my bad days. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, especially as a leader, throughout my youth programs and really in that space, there's tough decisions and tough moments, and bad days, fully transparent, but at the end of the day, it's understanding that all of them come and go. The good days come and go, the bad days come and go, right? And so again, understanding that I try to put myself in the best possible position, and to keep doing that, to keep working towards my goals, to not internalize the failures or the bad days and let them get too big, and outgrow my desire to keep growing and learning as a person. So, but it would definitely be hang on for the ride because it's been a wild, even 5 or 6 years. It's been a wild ride.
All right, that's terrific. I appreciate that. Listen, this has been really good, guys. So, a couple of things to finish up with. Where can listeners go to learn more about the Jaycees, and just send them in that direction?
So our Facebook is probably the best. It's the one that we keep the most updated. And again, with that format, we can share links, videos, pictures, and just, again, even our events, like our upcoming events. Alongside that, we also have a website on the Gaston Business Association's page. And so there's a couple of links there, like for new members to get involved, anybody who's between the ages of 21 to 40 wants to come out to a meeting. We've got our calendar on there and some of those other things. Mm-hmm. So I would say Facebook or that website is the best. We do have an Instagram, not as updated as our Facebook. But then alongside that, we also have an email, which is gastoncojaycees@gmail.com. And so anybody, even if you're a business or just somebody who has a person who wants to get involved or you just want to get connected, that's the best way to reach us directly.
All right, perfect. What's your greatest need at the moment?
I would say just continuing the momentum of the membership, and getting people more involved in the actual service projects that we do. I would say that's the biggest thing is actually, going to the meetings. That's been good, and we've been doing well with that. But getting more people involved in the actual projects, I would say, is the big one. Yeah, and maybe even more.
Just more boots on the ground.
Yeah, more boots on the ground. Always the more the merrier, for sure.
Yeah, and I would definitely, to piggyback off of that, I think we have seen a lot of growth and a lot of progress, especially with our member engagement, both at our meetings and even with a lot of our volunteer opportunities. But there's always room for us to continue to grow that, because ultimately, with more members, it gives us the opportunity to continue to expand our impact.
Yep.
Not even between the membership fees, but just ultimately what they're able to get involved in and how we can also connect with other organizations and, again, just continue to expand our impact.
All right, perfect.
So,
All right.
people.
Yeah.
Any last words? Give you guys the last word before we close this.
Thank you for having us, Stephen.
yeah,
That's
you're
all
very
I've
welcome.
got. Yeah, no, this was great to spread the good word of the Jaycees, and hopefully people will reach out to us if you are interested. But yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Listen, I appreciate that, and it's an encouraging, because I have seen organizations like the Jaycees, and I just say like the Jaycees because there have been so many. And you're right, COVID was I don't know, for some organizations, it was almost a tipping point where some of them didn't come back, frankly. So it's encouraging to see you guys involved and hear about what you guys are doing. And, I'm seeing firsthand, as that old guy, I'm seeing that firsthand that we, need, because we need younger, frankly. It sounds strange for me to say, because when I was 20, I'm like, I'm never going to be 55 years old and still be involved in the community, but we got to have younger people to carry on serving the community.
Yep.
It's really that simple, right?
That's the goal.
It's not easy, but it is that simple. So again, I appreciate what you guys are doing, what the organization is doing. It's great to have you on. So I'm going to finish up with my book recommendation and my quote for the week. And the good thing about not recording any episodes in a while, I've read a lot of books since the last time we recorded, but one of my most recent ones, if you've listened to this podcast at all over the past 5 years, I'm a big John Gordon fan, and his latest is a really simple, great book called The Power of Positive Habits. I think he's got 93 habits listed in there. Frankly, just to make you a better person. How can we be better? So I would encourage you to check that one out. And my quote for the week, I'm a big Stoic fan. I'm involved with the leadership group right now, and we have a weekly study, and we're studying the Daily Stoic. And Marcus Aurelius was a big Stoic, and he said, this seems simple, but I don't know why this is so hard in our modern world, but he said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. But man, that seems like stuff if you pay attention into, the media and social media, maybe we could take a little from that, but that's a good one to live by, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Definitely.
To our to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. Thanks again to Dominick and Nate for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amber Hauser and Rachel Long from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.